Welcome to The Way Home with Laura Smith, the show that brings you wonderful guests, helpful advice, and uplifting stories. The Way Home. Live inspired. Here's your host, Laura Smith.
Well, just this morning, driving to work, to the radio station, I was stopped by a yellow school bus, and I thought, wow, that hasn't happened for a few months, but indeed, school is back in session where I live in my part of the country, and I said to myself, wow, I've got to watch out for this because, you know, after a whole summer off of not seeing the yellow school buses and the yellow lights flashing and then turning to red lights and the stop sign coming out, I realize I really need to pay attention, and don't we all? Well, it's such a crucial topic, and there are so many statistics that go along with this that make it seem like we really have a ways to go in terms of safety for our children. I have Adam Snider here. He's a pedestrian safety expert with the Governor's Highway Safety Association, and that's a long title, but it's something so incredibly important, and we want to hear whatever you can teach us and tell us about how we can make our roads safer for our little ones who are getting on those school buses day to day or walking to and from school, whichever it may be. Thanks, Adam.
Great. Hi, Laura. Wonderful to be with you. Thank you. And that's a very long title, but I have a very short title that is most important to me, and that's Dad. I'm a father to two young kids, so this is both near and dear to my heart, both sort of professionally and personally. So thank you for highlighting this.
I'm so glad. And I know that there are, it looks as though, looking at some of the statistics, that we've gotten better in terms of, you know, the horrible accidents or fatalities that happen as a result of, you know, pedestrian deaths. We've gotten better, and it looks like in some statistics, not so great in other ones. Where are we at, and what is causing this, and what do we need to do and remember when it comes to our kids' safety?
Yeah, the sort of high-level news is that we are making progress in pedestrian safety. GHSA, my association, has been tracking this data for 15 years now. And in 2025, last year, there were 6,732 pedestrian deaths. That's 3 straight years of fewer deaths, which is good news, but that's far too many. You know, the only acceptable number of deaths is 0. So that might be sort of scary and eye-opening to some people, and it really should be. But there's things that we can all be doing, and it's just so important, especially at this time of year when kids are waiting for the school bus, they're walking and biking to school, they're being driven to school by their parents. That's a key part of this too, is the parents' behavior is on display too. So it's really the perfect time to be highlighting this and to be paying more attention to the progress we've made, but what more we need to be doing.
And the progress is great, but it is alarming to see the amount of, what are they called, where people basically go through a school bus that has its lights on to stop, and the stop sign is out and everything, but people are just going around it, and either they don't see it, they don't think about it, or they're distracted, or even worse, just don't care, and going through those warning signs. Is that still a big problem?
Oh, that's a huge problem. You mentioned seeing the school bus on your drive-in to the radio station today. Here in Washington, D.C., my kids start school in a few weeks, so I'm going to be seeing that more and more. But kids get to school in lots of ways, too. I actually walk my kids to and from school every day. We're pretty lucky to get that outdoor time together. A lot of parents are having to drive their kids to school. But thinking about the school bus particularly, 39 million times a year, someone illegally passes a school bus. That's going around the stop arm, or when the lights are flashing, those red lights are flashing, a driver drives around it illegally. Every single one of those could put a kid's life at risk. Just think about how many times you see the kids lined up for the school bus or waiting before the school bus is there. It's a huge safety hazard, and definitely worth highlighting. So I know you would have stopped if the lights were flashing, but unfortunately a lot of drivers are not doing that.
Right. I have two cousins. Both of them are school bus drivers, and they came on the radio station one time to say that, and which is something, believe it or not, I didn't really know. When you see the yellow lights flashing, you're supposed to stop, not just when the red lights are on. The yellow lights are the warning to say, okay, stop. The red lights are like, absolutely, make sure you're stopped. But I really didn't realize that. So now I do. I stop as soon as I see the yellow light go on. But I noticed this morning during that time where I saw my first school bus, the person behind me almost ran into me. They weren't expecting me to stop, I guess. And so is that the rule, that you should be stopping at the yellow light, not at the red light?
Yes, it's safest. Treat it just sort of like a traffic light. That yellow really should be slow down and prepare to stop, to give you a little bit of a warning, and then red is stopping. So yes, both for whether it's the school bus lights or the stop arm or whatever it is, the second you start to see some flashing light, a pedestrian sign. There's a lot of signs marking pedestrian crossings that also have flashing lights, things like that. Roadside first responders, the flashing lights on those vehicles. Just about any time you see some flashing lights on the road, that's typically a pretty good sign that you need to be slowing down and being fully alert on what you're doing. So certainly don't want. Unfortunately, though, too many people view the yellow light, whether the school bus or the traffic light, as a sign to speed up and try to make it before it turns red. And
right.
Yeah, sadly have deadly consequences.
It does. And then for the kids that are walking maybe without an adult, maybe these are your little bit older kids or people on bicycles, how, are they given good rules by their parents and by the schools on ways to remain safe? I see sometimes kids on bikes and I don't see them with any reflective gear on or anything like that. And I'm just wondering, or no helmets. Where I live, it's a no helmet state. So people are riding these bikes with no helmet on and no reflective gear. And I'm just, praying to God as I go past them, that everybody else sees them.
Yeah, I think schools are increasingly doing a better job of that as there's more awareness of sort of educating youth and starting early talking about safety. But it goes back to the parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and caregivers and neighbors and everyone else who is influential in a kid's life to just be a good role model no matter how you're using the road, whether you're driving, walking, biking, scooting, however you're getting around. Do smart, simple things that keep you and everyone else safe. You mentioned distraction earlier. That's a key thing. Put the phone down. Turn on your do not disturb if you have your phone in the car. If you're walking, keep it in your pocket. There's ways we can be a good role model and help teach our kids early these safe road use practices. And it's never too early to start doing that too. My kids are 4 and 8, and I've been talking to them about distracted driving and speeding and all these safety issues for years, and they're not too young to start thinking and talking and knowing about this stuff, and so sort of seeing that good safe behavior modeled in their parents and community members.
That's terrific. And I can totally appreciate that. The earlier, the better, and starting them with the messaging. Is there anything else that you would like us to know clearly on this topic before we close today? And is there a good website maybe where parents can get good tips for bringing up these conversations and, or a list of must-dos when, for whatever it is, whether you're on the bus or on your bike?
Yeah. So my association, the Governor's Highway Safety Association, has partnered with State Farm, the insurance provider, for several years now to really crack down on distracted driving and help change the culture. There's a lot of useful tips and resources, especially on ways to talk to young kids or even teens as we get into the driving years. You can visit statefarm.com/safe driving. There's a lot of those tips and resources are compiled there. And I just urge everyone to try to get involved, read up a little bit, and have a conversation with your kids or community members about road safety.
And even if you had the conversation last year and the year before, have it again this year.
Yes, attention spans are short, and I can vouch for kids forgetting things often. So,
including ourselves, right? Including
oh,
ourselves.
yes, I'm not much
Yeah.
better myself. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Adam Snider, pedestrian safety expert with the Governor's Highway Safety Association in conjunction with State Farm. Go to statefarm.com/safe driving. Thank you so much, Adam.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Stay safe.
You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith. Once again, here's Laura.
With more than half of households in the United States owning firearms, avoiding the topic does not make children any safer. Education does. David Hayes Cox's new book, This Is a Gun, is a calm, age-appropriate introduction to firearm safety for your young kids and the adults who care for them. David is a certified firearms instructor and a dad, and his goal is to help families talk openly and clearly about what a gun is, why it can be dangerous, and what children should do if they ever encounter one. Grateful to have you here on this topic, as I hate to say it, but doing a news program all during the week every morning, if there's nothing that makes me sadder, it is reporting on gun violence with young children involved. And it just feels like it's more and more. And boy, I wish this book had come out eons ago. Would have been really important. So thanks for joining us, David.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
So this book, it's formatted so beautifully, perfect for kids, but there's so much good information in for it. It's for kids and adults alike. But what prompted you to write this book, This Is a Gun, a safety guide for families with children?
Well, as you mentioned, I am a dad, and I've been a firearms owner for a couple of decades now. And I knew when I was planning to become a dad that I was going to eventually have to teach them about firearms, because I wanted to make sure that my kids would live in a safe household. So I went out to look for resources, and there were a couple, but I found in general the resources for educating young children about the dangers of firearms to be shockingly lacking. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to write something for my family. And then through that process of writing for my family, I realized that this might be information that would be helpful for other families. And then as I spread it out there and discovered that other people were appreciative of having this guidance, I then moved it into the process of turning it into a real book and now sharing it with the world.
That's wonderful. And it's so, as I said, so important, but the formatting is beautiful. The artwork, I know that a gentleman by the last name of Ruiz, he is the illustrator. And I just think it's done beautifully in a way that will absolutely attract young kids to want to read it with their parents, and in an instructional way that's just super dynamic for kids and parents alike. So well done.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's really important when it comes to gun safety for young children for them to be able to visualize this safety, because just understanding that guns are dangerous is only half of the battle. They also have to be able to identify what a firearms looks like. Mm-hmm. And if they can't see one in real life size, then they're just going to be creating an image in their mind based on comic books and video games and toys. And that doesn't come close to what a real actual firearm looks like. So Joe Ruiz did an excellent job of creating some life-size firearms images for the cover and for the interior of this book. He did a great job.
Oh, he certainly did. And it is. I mean, the pictures are really big. It's like takes a picture book to a whole other level. But again, you're right. I mean, when you think about it, if you're not seeing it in its actuality, what it could look like, and all the different types too, I think that is so crucial as well. You've got every type of gun in there so that these kids can start to learn to differentiate about the different types or whatever. But it's just important for them to know. I mean, I look back and because I was going to have this conversation with you today, I was thinking about it. And so my dad always had guns. And I remember being roughly 5 years old. And one night I was scared of a thunderstorm or something. So my parents let me sleep in their bedroom. But I had not fallen asleep yet. And I opened up, this is how old I am. It was like back in the 60s. And you have those little cubby holes that on the back of the bed, which was basically what held the bed up. And they had little cubby holes where people would store things at night, maybe their alarm clock or whatever. And I remember there was a gun in there, and it asked my parents what it was because I didn't know. And I'm trying to think. I remember my dad explaining it to me and telling me I wasn't allowed to touch it. That I remember. But I think I found it first before he did, because he probably didn't think that I would ever do it. But that really kind of the common presumption is that, oh, well, the kids aren't going to find it, so it's okay.
That's exactly right. And thank goodness your parents were in the room when you discovered that, because who knows how you would have reacted if you discovered it on your own. Having no education whatsoever about the dangers of firearms, if you had seen that, would you have known to stop and go, leave the room and go find an adult? The reality is that most children actually have very positive imagery in their heads when it comes to firearms, because kids only know Nerf guns and squirt guns, and they know that the video games where their characters shoot things with guns. So they don't have any negative imagery or understanding of guns unless we actually step in as parents and educate them and say, hey, I know that you play games on the TV with guns and you watch these in cartoons and movies, but a real one is really dangerous and you should never touch it. And you need to leave the room if you ever see one. You need to go find an adult if this ever happens. So, yeah, it's great that your parents were right there. But that is a very common situation where a conversation hasn't happened first. The kid discovers the firearm if it's unlocked. And then it's just luck. We're just praying that they do the right thing if we haven't educated them first. And that's what I want to start avoiding, especially in this country, that we have so many guns in this country. And it's not something that I'm making any judgment on. It's just a fact, is that we have between 400 and 500 million guns in civilian hands. And anything, any object, any tool where there's that many of them in the country, it behooves every parent to educate their child about the danger of that item. If it's so common, there's a very significant chance that your child may be in the presence of a firearm, whether they know it or not, just by walking out into the world, playing at a friend's house, being at a relative's house, going to an after-school program. There are all of these opportunities that they might stumble across one, and we just want to make sure that we prepare our kids, and we just let them know it's an easy conversation, just to make sure that they know, hey, this is a dangerous thing. You need to stop. You don't want to touch this. We talk to our kids about, if they're going hiking, right? We're going to tell them about possibly snakes or bears or any of these things out there. If they're going out into the woods, watch out for these things, kids, right? We just need to do the same thing for firearms. We just need to tell them.
We do. And, and then also think about drugs. I mean, we have these conversations about, scary things all the time. But you're right. When it comes to guns and gun safety, it's really, it's relegated to just certain states and certain people within those states. I lived for 4 decades in New York. I don't think I knew anybody with a gun that owned a gun. Seriously, not a single person. I come to Indiana and literally, lo and behold, everyone has them. And not only do they have them, but the women have them, even the single women. And they go to the shooting range and they take classes and they learn how to use them. And there's no taboo around it. There's such a taboo in certain places about it that, like you said, the reaction to that is to bury the head about it and say it's evil, it's scary, don't talk about it. Whereas you're saying that is to the absolute detriment. And especially with our kids, they have to know, what it is and what to do. And I like that you have those simple directions. It's like 3 steps you tell them, right? Tell us right here on the show, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really simple for kids to memorize. It's just don't touch, run away, find an adult. It's just supposed to be that simple. It's like when we were kids, we learned stop, drop, and roll.
Yes.
For fires. That was, drilled into us, with public service announcements and school programs, stop, drop, and roll. I think every adult of a certain age remembers that program. We need to be doing the same thing for our kids when it comes to firearms, which is don't touch, run away, find an adult. And it's interesting that you brought up New York, because you're right. I come from Massachusetts myself. I was raised in Massachusetts. I grew up in communities. I never heard the word gun.
Let alone see one. You didn't even hear the word. Exactly.
Yeah, you don't even hear the word. But the statistics actually tell us that even in, very blue states, it really only drops to about 25% of families still own guns. That means that, in a classroom of, third graders, you're still looking at, with 30 kids, you're still looking at a significant number of those kids in families that own firearms. So, it's really important for parents, it doesn't matter which state you're in. Doesn't matter if you're in a northern blue state or California, or if you're in Texas or North Carolina, where I'm located. You need to teach your kids that guns are dangerous, and that only an adult that is trained in one, or a older child, that has been through the training process, is allowed to handle one. Mm-hmm. And if you're too young, you should just stay away from it, and that's going to keep you safe.
Yeah. And I know there are some families in the country that actually do teach their kids, but in a responsible way, with a very intense training, and specifically to be able to help them. But I think this is incredible information, and it should be everywhere. And by all means, it's something good for parents too, because they're all great reminders. You want to know how to talk to your kids about it, but they're all great reminders for adults as well. I think my first instinct would be to touch it. So the fact that that's your second directive, don't touch it. Go tell us, an adult, is so important, because I think out of curiosity, most of us would just instinctively want to touch it. And the thing to tell kids is the opposite, correct?
That's exactly right. You don't want a child to be touching a firearm. And I like to tell adults that are a little bit hesitant about this, I have them imagine if they were a household that didn't own a stove, and that they didn't believe in stoves, and that you're not supposed to, they don't talk to their kids about stoves because they don't believe in them. And then they send their kids over to a friend's house, and the first thing they do when they walk in the kitchen is see a stove with a red hot glowing eye on the top of it. And this is their very first time ever encountering a stove. What is that child going to do? Are they going to run away from that stove? Or are they going to go, wow, that red eye looks really interesting. I wonder what it's like to touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
exactly. Kids are curious. Guns are shiny. Guns have an interesting shape. If a kid doesn't know what a real one looks like and what to do, their natural curiosity is going to get the better of them, and they're going to run towards it, not away from it. We need to stop that from happening.
Being that you're a firearms instructor, and we only have about 3 minutes left, but I would like to ask you, and this is maybe down a different rabbit hole, but somebody who works with guns and then works to train people and all sorts of safety concerns. Do you believe that there is any correlation between kids who grow up with violent video games where there's guns present in it, and they get to act as the shooter in these things, and then winning is like how many people are? I know this is a little bit veering in a different direction, but I'm interested because that's something I've always thought about, and I just wonder if they've done research enough to know do kids who are drawn to those types of things as a young child and get to play them as much as they want to, do they see a higher statistic of gun violence with those same kids?
I am not an expert on video games and their correlations to physical violence. I mean, I do believe I read a study a while ago that indicated that was not the case, that video games don't have that direct correlation, that they can't really attach a number associated with playing violent video games to, creating real life dangerous situations. I do know that there is a lot of benefit to being able to, do different kinds of video games. Kids can find a lot of benefit from video games. There's a lot of communication that they have now through the technology that kids can talk with each other and socialize and do all these things. I don't really have anything against video games per se. I definitely think that there are appropriate ages for video games. I definitely don't think that my first grader should be playing Call of Duty.
Right.
I'm not going to let my first grader play Call of Duty. But I will, when he gets older, and I feel like he can understand the difference between fictional gameplay and reality. I'm definitely not going to restrict him from, playing some of these games. But I think the main focus and the benefit from teaching children about firearms at an early age is that they can develop a respect for these tools, whether you're a gun-owning family or not. When you develop a respect and for these tools and understand the dangers, that can translate as the child grows older into a deeper respect and more caution when it comes to thinking about what a gun represents. A lot of children that don't have any experience learning about real safety, they don't have any concept, and a gun is still a very fictional thing to them as they get older into their teenage years, and they may do something dangerous because they never learned at an early age about the safety aspects. And I think that that will translate as the children get older into a safer environment in general.
Well, you've done an incredible public service by writing this book. David Hayes Cox's new book, This is a Gun, a safety guide for families with children. Again, This is a Gun, a safety guide for families with children, illustrated beautifully by Joe Ruiz. It's a fantastic book visually and content-wise, something so crucial and important. And I'm grateful for your courage in coming out with writing this and with the express goal of just making it safer for our kids and the whole world by writing it. This is a Gun is the name of the book, wherever fine books are sold. And is there anything else you want to leave us with, a website we can go to or any other materials?
Absolutely. You can go to thisisagun.org. There's a lot of great information, links to purchase the book, and just a message to all parents to educate their children. Education is empowerment, and we can be safe through that education.
Thank you. Thisisagun.org. David Hayes Cox, thank you so very much. Great to meet you.
Thank you, too. Great to meet you as well.
Thank you all for listening to The Way Home this week and to my wonderful guests. And may you all have a wonderful week that is safe, that's happy, healthy, and full of lots of miracles as well. I'm Laura Smith. See you next time from The Way Home.
Podcasts by Federated Media.